I'm just interested in your reflections on story in relation to the three statements,
Yep.
which are in Come Back, tell me all your stories.
Yeah.
There's a kind of invitation to just like let the story flow. Tell
Yeah.
me all your stories.
Tell me
I'm
all
listening.
your stories, right?
All your stories. It's
That's right.
inclusive.
Yeah.
Nothing needs to be changed.
Yep.
And then the instance that we just had a look at, I've heard the stories you tell yourself, no wonder you're not sleeping well. Let me paint you something new, something closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of story stewardship, which is a key new term for Brene in Atlas of the Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to avoid narrative takeover or narrative tap down.
Sure.
And then the third instance of story referencing is, again, in Hello, My Name Is. A rose is a rose is a rose, everybody knows. That doesn't come close to getting it right. A rose is a rose is a rose. The story goes, all subtlety lost. So there's this kind of stale story where subtlety is lost.
Right.
It's not novelistic, it's not rich and expansive.
It's rote. I mean,
Yes.
that's like the thought is like, sometimes we just get so accustomed to the same old that we forget to
Yeah.
that we forget that we get to choose, you know?
Makes me think of Ed Catmull. Do you know the book Creativity Inc?
No.
So Ed Catmull is the president of Pixar Animations and Disney Animations, a good
Okay.
friend of Brené's.
Yeah, yeah.
They're tight.
They are tight.
And she references him in Rising Strong.
Yeah.
She goes to Pixar, and on this theme of story, when she is writing about story in Rising Strong, she references going to Pixar. She says she saw "Story is King" written on the big board at Pixar, and that gets her thinking about the three-act structure. And the three-act structure, in turn, ends up kind of informing the Rising Strong process. But there's, interestingly, though, in the book Creativity Inc., that she's referencing by Ed Catmull,
Yep.
he is skeptical of any kind of maxim, even the Pixar, what was originally the Pixar ethos, story is king.
Yeah.
He has this metaphor of a suitcase, like people can hold on to the handle of a suitcase, and they could just be walking around holding a handle, and statements like "story is king," seem meaningful, but that can be route,
Right.
or it can lose its meaning.
Yes.
And
Yes.
even these helpful guiding phrases, perhaps even like maintain a sense of play. Like if we're not careful, like these very helpful signposts and guideposts can become stale and lose their meaning. So I'm interested in any reflections that you have on meaning-making, storytelling, and getting the balance between the invitation to have someone tell us all their stories, the awareness that someone might be telling themselves a story that is less true and less flattering than the story that I'm able to tell them about themselves.
Right.
And being aware that stories can easily become stale and be lacking in subtlety.
Yeah. So I think that for myself, like a good example of a story is I've always really been attached to let's have everything be the same forever because that's safest. Like that would be
Safety is important.
Yes.
A prime need.
It's a prime need. And also, sometimes the fact that I wouldn't be safe, that would be a story I would tell myself, like investigating, like, well, is that really true? Little Byron Katie, like, is it true? I don't know. Often I'm probably safer than like, the idea that I wouldn't be safe could be outdated information. And I think, especially, with a year and half or 2 years or however you want to look at it of, global pandemic, right? We were getting new data all the time, and we were being like, there was a story and our body was storing that story, and we were interpreting it, and then needing to emerge at some point with like, okay, well, like for myself, it required that that period undoubtedly changed me. So now I am changed. So here I was so scared that change would ever happen, and here change has happened, and I have gone through change. So now that story that change can never happen, you know, like it's already gone.
Yeah.
And in those songs that you mentioned, I mean, for sure, Hello, My Name is like, let's challenge that outdated story. Does it still fit you? I have a tendency to keep wearing, you know, like, let's look at some jeans in my closet that I'm like, I probably should wear those jeans forever, fit into those jeans forever. Is that true? No, like, I should probably go shopping, maybe. I want you to take me shopping.
Just so that you can get pants like
like
this.
right, I do. But challenging some of those conceptions that you just hold to so strongly, and they don't always serve you. And with You Are, Champagne on a Wednesday, that song is meant to, it's written for my mom, my best friend, and a little bit for my daughter in her future.
Yeah, Grown Up Millie.
Grown Up Millie.
It's like, it's like a continuation of Brighter,
it
this
is.
effervescent celebration
Yep.
of the brightness.
Yep.
But yeah, that's something else that really intrigued me.
Yeah.
That it's doing the same thing, but to an adult version of the same person.
Yeah. It was, the idea was that many, you know, women and non-binary, like, that they, and men too, just humans are always telling ourselves, like, we're not enough, or we're not, like,
Yeah.
we're not the spectacular thing. Oh, you're totally spectacular. You know, like, you're spectacular, and you're spectacular. And I wanted, it helps my brain to dial it into real people. So, you know, the first verse is like my mom, the second verse is my best friend. And once I realized all that imagery that you mentioned, referencing Brighter, I was like, oh, this is Millie too, because she's going to have those moments too where she thinks she's not. And she is. She's so magical. And so it's like, when that voice, that old, outdated story that tells you you're this one thing, you know, gets too loud, like, you need to
Right.
paint. I want to paint you something new, and I wish that it wasn't paint, you know, but I didn't like, I want to write you something new. And I shouldn't say I don't want it to be paint. It's just that, like, switching artistic mediums in that bridge was an interesting, I was like, is that okay? I usually like to be more specific, but I think the idea that you would take someone and you tell them a story, and oh, you've been listening to these stories are not serving you. Let me show you, like, a big, bold color, like, messy, gorgeous canvas. That's your new thing, and that's true too.
I like that it points beyond story, beyond words.
Yeah.
In the shifting of the metaphor to
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
But then also elsewhere in the song, put on something that makes you feel like dancing.
Yep.
We've got those guideposts, the wholehearted living again here.
Yep.
And it seems like the child at play, you know, who isn't yet doing as much storytelling. The child is responsive to music, dancing,
Yep.
singing,
Yep.
playfully.
Yep.
And there are times when, as much as we value words and honoring words and
I love
adore
words.
them,
Yeah.
there's scope for music and painting in this metaphor to be the thing that just breaks us out of the trap that we've constructed for ourselves
Yeah.
through our clever storytelling capacity.
Yeah.
Let's introduce the theme of truth.
Okay.
Because it will, you know, seg, you know, from storytelling
I don't doubt it.
to truth.
Just
So
like
there
that.
are no less than 6 of 9 songs that reference truth.
Yeah. Every album, there's, like, just a sidebar, like Hearts in Need of Repair. It was totally like stone showed up in
Yep.
water. Like, it's so funny to, like, which.
We were playing a drinking game.
Yes, that would've been the
I mean,
drinking game.
we weren't drinking, but we were joking there could be a drinking
And you
game
could
as
do
words showed
drinking
up.
games for me with, like, tree references. That would be a separate one. But yes, I love the truth would be. It makes 100% sense to my brain. The truth would appear 6 of 9
Yep.
times.
6 out of 9. So let's do, this time it really will be a whistle-stop tour. I'm just going to quote the
Yeah.
6 lyrics.
Okay.
And then you can do with it what
Hit me.
you will. So, sweetness is also true in staggering. That sweetness is also true, is 1 of 6. Again, in Champagne on a Wednesday, we just reference this one. I'll paint you something closer to the truth. So, 2 down. In Ruthless, when forced to choose between kindness and the truth, is the lyric. In something that holds wherever you are as north is true. In The Longest Night, we needed to speak the words to make them true. And in Hello, My Name Is, do you hear an invitation to maybe shed the skin that hides your deeper truth?
Yeah.
So there we go.
That sounds right. Good job.
That's all 6. Do any of those really strike you, or the juxtaposition of those different references to truth?
Yeah. Well, staggering was a good one because that's very a Brene reference for me, is one of the things that I was first introduced to by her work and has been reiterated with many, many people that I enjoy reading, is the concept of both and. So staggering is really all about like, yeah, it's very hard out there. It is hard out there. And also it's sweet, and that's true too.
Yep.
And so that one I think is a real specific, because what is true anyways, you know, but it's like knowing that the competing things can both be true. The story that you tell yourself can be true, and it can be not true, you know.
It makes me think of the martyr and the trickster again, which is something we were reflecting in relation to, that we were discussing in relation to Big Magic last time. And so, yes, it is, something of the martyr story is true. Yes, it is a slog to bring, you know, the artwork through to completion. And yes, some of these, this data exists.
Yeah.
And let's be playful.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think, you know, that was just one of that lesson of like, this is exhausting. And also right there that like, you know, Anne Lamott will talk about offering yourself small kindnesses, you know, like that ease of that sip of coffee in the morning, because that's one of the things, you know, like the quiet, that's also true. That's sweet. That is true, even amidst all of the mucky muck.
Yeah. Back to the ordinary things and the domestic moments that we've...
I'm still domestic. It's showing up there.
Absolutely.
What were let's see, something that holds the idea that sometimes wherever you are as north is true. Like that's going to be I've chosen you to be my true north, my place that I run to, my aim.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be another person, that can be songwriting. You know, for me, anytime I write a song, I get very like hopped up on this song has to be this true right now, like as much. It's kind of like we spoke about earlier, like every word needs to have its place and be meaningful, or it doesn't get to hang out, you know. I don't ever want to pick a word just to like, I don't know, fit into some other kind of mold, or just because it rhymes.
Yeah. Makes me think of All Mine.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if the words rhymed?
Wouldn't it be nice? And a lot of times they do. If you just keep looking for more words. But even that, like it's just, you know. And then I think you said another.
We need to speak the words to make them true.
We didn't need to speak the words.
We didn't need to speak the words.
Yes, and that one is about like sometimes in a intimate moment we didn't need to speak the words. Maybe I got my lyrics sheet right, but it is we didn't. And it's the idea that in a sacred moment that sometimes words get in the way.
Yeah.
I had a whole phase, I've had it twice now, and it's usually January through February, where I like cannot listen to music with words for a while, which had never happened to me until I didn't leave my house. But or just like there was so much, it felt like so much stimulation coming all the time.
Yes.
That I could not have words. And so I really depended on my friend Lars to tell me what solid instrumental albums were out there that I could listen to, because sometimes those help me get to feeling more than words ever did, you know.
Absolutely.
So The Longest Night is that idea.
The Words Left Unsaid lyric from Cheap Perfume is coming back to me. So there's an intentional avoidance of data, and I'm going to tell myself a story that I kind of know isn't true, so that I can get away with doing the thing that I want, as opposed to doing what I essentially maybe eventually doing what I need to do.
Right.
Empty Seat is another song from Hearts In Need of Repair that I found myself returning to in relation to The Longest Night, because there we're making room for the darkness to take over, which is another very Brené thing. I think there's another guidepost to Wholehearted Living is stillness, calm and stillness, and kind of creating a space where one can be with the feeling, be with oneself in the experience. And that's happening in Empty Seat.
Yeah.
In The Longest Night, it's interesting. What do you think about the relationship between those two songs, Empty Seat and The Longest Night? In Empty Seat, we're looking at the empty seat and we're letting it remind us of the absent person.
Yeah, they're both grieving songs, absolutely. And they both take place under the cover of darkness. You know, it's a night drive or it's a solstice. I pictured The Longest Night happening on the literal longest night. And I think it's that sometimes it's just easier to feel those feelings when the juxtaposition, when the outside matches your insides a little bit more. If you're feeling sad and deeply grieving, I think Bright Sun can feel like so contrasting, it's maybe hard to take.
Yeah.
And because it feels like, okay, well, someday maybe I will get to that brightness, but I am not ready for that. So that darkness offers and maybe easier access to the real feeling.
Yeah. The only way out is through the dark night.
That too.
Of the soul.
That's true. Right.
In Empty Seat, what you were just describing about music and how music can break us out of a story is at play, because I turn on then I turn off my radio. It's interesting. The character has the intuition that music's going to help, but the songs that are playing on the radio don't help.
Yeah.
Settle on some melody I used to know. And it's this, going back to the idea of the child at play when story isn't interfering. It's true, that is the thread that when this particular character in Empty Seat is driving through the dark night to get on the other side and to work and to process, to know, to be with themselves and to come out the other side. It is returning to a childhood melody that provides the way forward. That just strikes me as really interesting in relation to our conversation about story and song.
Yeah.
And and instrumental. It's the melody rather than the words from the
Well, and you
song.
think about how many, like in folk songs, like how many melodies they reappear over and over and over again, because there's actually something about those melodies that feel like home or feel like comfort.
Yeah.
Enough that then someone is like, let me also have, some more words for you.
Yeah.
Let me put my own words, which, I mean, I've seen kids do all the time, like take a song that they know, but then make up their own words to it. What a joy,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to call out all my fears is the assertion back in Empty Seat. And when I read Big Magic, it struck me as interesting that Elizabeth Gilbert is saying at the beginning, there's nothing interesting about one's fear. Like the fear that Simon has is the same as like the fear that the tadpole has. Like
Sure.
It's not wanting to engage with this alien thing, and everyone's fear song is the same. Elizabeth Gilbert says, and there's the metaphor of going on the road trip with fear, and fear will inevitably be with us when we join the songwriting challenge and have to write the song in the week,
but they can't control the radio.
But they can't control the radio.
Indeed.
Yeah. And so, what do you think of that metaphor here? This character in Empty Seat is calling out all their fears. The reason why I'm steering us this way is because Brené says that there is with the laughter, song, and dance guidepost, there is a song and a dance and a path to laughter for every emotion. And I think that that kind of does include fear. It's significant that there is something interesting about my fear. I'm going to call out my fears and just let it be expressed. the idea of there being a pathway to laughter, song, or dance related to every emotion seems key in relation to this record, particularly in relation to the song that you're about to film the music video for today, immediately after the interview. In Ruthless, you said there's lots of songs that you've had that reference kindness before, but you wanted to explore. Can you remember how you phrased it? Different emotions.
Yes. So with Ruthless, the word was ruthless.
Yep.
And so often I get prompts. We haven't if just we're meeting for the first time, nice person who's watching this. I belong to a songwriting group where we get prompts on a Sunday, and it's usually a word, sometimes a picture, and all that is it prompts you. So you don't have to use the word. And I don't very often. I feel like my Minnesota accent's really rocking today.
Because of the contrast with the English one,
like
the British
it.
one.
I just really wanted it. But I rarely use it as a title, for sure. And I think pretty rarely does it even make it in the song. It has made it into a few of these, but the word ruthless was, one, it's delicious to sing. It's super fun. So I think there was more of a motivation to use it.
Yeah.
When I saw the word ruthless, I went to a story, and it's kind of like a cheap perfume, like a darker, more illicit moment. And I just let my imagination run wild and got very into this specific moment. And as I kept pulling at it, because often I write really linearly. So the first line is the first thing I do, and then the second line. So Ruthless as a title, as an idea, didn't come until I'd worked my way through more of it, and it kind of goes back to Renee. When she has clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
Yep.
And I thought about the gift that this person is offering, the person they're singing to, is the truth. Like, hey, I'm not sticking around. Like, I don't feel the same way that you do. I don't see it that, but I'm letting you know that. Like, so if you want, kindness and the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth here. And that's the offering.
There's such an interesting juxtaposition of Ruthless and Cheap Perfume, I think. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like the kind of illicit thing that's been happening. I can imagine one way of telling the story.
I would see Cheap Perfume, the singer, is like more tangled up in it and less in control. Whereas Ruthless, it has a little bit more swagger to it.
Right.
More intention to it. More like, I'm aware.
Yeah, exactly.
Of every like lick of this, and
I'm not going to varnish it.
Right.
This is not appealing to me anymore. Thank you.
And I do write, I really believe in kindness. Like, so it was fun.
If we spread kindness like confetti,
yes. And oh my gosh,
Hearts and
all my songs are about like, let's be together and love each other. Let's see how our fear songs are all similar. And if you offer that gift of like, your fear song is like my fear song, oh my gosh, we're just messy humans together. That's most of what I write.
All of us are the confetti
exactly.
in our imperfection.
That's everything, except for this one song where it was really delicious and fun to kind of like dive into that other role. And I just
it's so interesting. Yeah. Yes, we are all the confetti. Yes, we're all imperfect.
All
yes,
true.
We can bring the love. And here's this very unattractive thing about you.
Right. And I think, just like Hello, My Name Is, in this, there is wanting to embrace some of that. Like that sometimes I think that like the messaging of like, look, we're all messy. That means we wear sweatpants and a messy bun. Yes. But also messy is like, sometimes I'm mean. Sometimes I yell. Like that's a harder kind of mess to talk about. It's not very pretty or, like quippable.
Yes.
And I think Ruthless offers a little bit of that.
Yeah. Paradoxically, there is a kindness to the ruthlessness.
I think so.
Even
Because clear is kind.
Exactly.
How we, right?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting song. Could you say a little bit about the concept for the music video?